guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled I Don't Care If You're Serving Him, I'm in a Hurry. I know shouldn't surprise myself with the level of entitlement of some people that appears in this subreddit, but I can't help it. English isn't my first language, so my apologies for any mispronunciation. For this story we have EC, entitled Customer, AC, Awesome Cashier, and AM, Assistant Manager. So, after a very uneventful day at work, I, M26, decided to go to a grocery store to buy some Steam gift cards for myself. Yes, I could buy games with my credit card, but I prefer this way. After getting the cards I wanted, I went to AC's register to pay for them. I hoped for a quick transaction, but AC never checked out a Steam gift card, so obviously an error was made, and she requested the M's help to cancel the first transaction so she can do it right. Meanwhile, two more people joined the line for AC's register. An old lady with a half-full cart, not important for this story, and EC. After voiding the first transaction, AC tried to check out the gift cards again, but was a little confused about the prices of the cards. Steam cards can be a nuisance sometimes. So I decided to do some small talk with the cashier to light up the mood as I understand her struggles. I work as a stock boy in another grocery store. And then it begins. EC. Lady, are going to take much longer? I'm in a hurry here and you've been serving this dude, me, for 20 minutes now. Not true, it was actually 7 minutes. I was honestly expecting AC to apologize for the delay, but what I actually heard baffled me, and made me a big fan of that cashier. AC. SR, there are more than 20 empty registers for you to choose, I cannot speed this up here. For context, out of the 20 registers available, on 4 were being operated by a cashier. EC said a few more words, but I filtered that out as I was collecting the cash from my wallet to pay for the cards. The total amount for the cards was 158 Brazilian reals and 97 centavos. Yes, I live in Brazil, and since I had no change with me, I gave AC 2 BRL 100 bills, meaning a change of 41 Brazilian reals and 3 centavos to yours truly. The story should have ended there with me getting my change and walking towards the sunset, right? Wrong. A miracle happened, the register had no coins to complete my change, meaning that AM was called again to bring the coins needed. This next dialogue will be paraphrased as I was trying not to look like a creep by looking this douche's face. EC. Are you going to call her again? She was here a second ago. AC. Sir, I need to give this gentleman his change. EC. This is unacceptable, he's been here for over 20 minutes now. At this moment, AM arrives with the change and hands it to the cashier. EC. I'm going to contact customer care of this store and file a complaint. This is poor customer service. AM. Sir, there are more than 20 other registers for you to use. At this moment, I just grabbed my gift cards and left the store, though I must admit, I was so tempted to hold the line a few more minutes just to piss EC out a little more, but I wasn't going to punish the sweet old lady that was in front of EC for that. The next story is entitled Kids Don't Want to Accept They're Not Allowed to Pet the Dogs. M. A bit of backstory. My 22F, BF's parents own 2 small dogs, Lola, 6F, and Millie, 4F. They got Lola when she was just a puppy. Lola got pregnant with 6 puppies after 2 dogs jumped over the fence one day. According to his family, this pregnancy and birth was extremely traumatizing for Lola. Millie was stuck, and they needed to get a vet's help. All the puppies were saved and sound. Millie was kept and all the other puppies were kept by other family members. Lola and Millie are lovely dogs if you know them. They're happy being around my BF's family and their kids. But they're not so happy around strangers and male dogs, with only a few exceptions. We're really careful when we go for a walk with them. They mostly just bark at everyone and won't bite unless they would feel threatened by something or someone. So, to the story, my BF's dad asked me if I could go for a walk with them, because he needed to be longer at work. I got out and there were a group of 5 children, probably around 8 to 12 years old, running around and screaming, which made the dogs anxious, and they started barking. EK. May we pet them? Me. No. They're scared. EK. Please, only for a minute, and they come nearer towards us. I see the dogs get even more anxious and bark more. Me. No, you can't pet the dogs. They're scared of you, and they might bite you. Still those kids didn't want to listen and tried to argue with me. One of them tried to get to the dogs and I got extremely pissed at that point. Me. No means no. You can't pet the dogs. Duck off. I tried to get away from them and calming down the dogs, but they started following me. They followed me for 20 minutes straight and I couldn't walk properly with them. I needed to stay even more cautious than usual and both of them were to stress out to actually do their business. I started to run with them around multiple corners, so those brats would lose me and tried to get the quickest way back to my BF's parents' home. We all know what will happen to a dog when they bite a child. I don't want that to happen. I try to keep everyone safe and alive. I appreciate asking, but you need to accept a no too. There is no point in arguing about it. Dogs are the ones who will have to deal with the consequences, even if it's not even their fault. The next story is titled Am I the A-hole for not letting my neighbor's kids play in my yard until they pay to fix damage to my house? My father bought the house in the 80s and held onto it as different developments sprung up around it. I inherited it 3 years ago and have been living in it since. I have 2 acres while my surrounding neighbors have maybe 1/2 an acre if they're lucky. The house is fairly small, 2-bed 2-bath, so I have a very large front and backyard. I use maybe 1/5 of the backyard as a garden and the rest is basically an empty field. I've always loved kids, so I was happy to let my neighbor's kids play in the field with the understanding that they would respect the property. Most of the kids are great, very respectful and understand that this is not their backyard. The problem is with my neighbors to the right. They have 5 kids, F1, M3, M5, F5 and M7, who generally run around unsupervised. They don't come to my yard to play very often unless the other kids are playing soccer or baseball. The 7-year-old is in charge, as much as a 7-year-old can be, but obviously he can't replace parental supervision. 5 days ago, the kids were playing baseball and he must have lost track of the 5-year-old at some point because when I came home from work, I found their names sharped onto my wall. Name and name were here, along with some rude drawings, a man pooping, several piles of poop, that sort of thing, all along the right side of the house. I found their parents the next day and asked them to pay for the paint I'll need to cover it up. They were very offended, accused me of lying and said they weren't going to pay. If this had been all, I probably would have let it slide and covered the paint since it would only be like $20, but later that day M5 decided it would be funny to throw rocks at my house. There are several dents in the siding where the rocks hit and 2 of my windows are broken. From what I've been quoted to fix it, it's about $800 to $900 worth of damage. I talked to the parents who accused me of doing it myself to make their kids look bad. I've decided those 5 are not allowed to use my yard until the damage is paid for, which I think is more than fair. When they came by this morning to play soccer with the other kids, I politely explained the situation and said they would have to leave as they aren't allowed to play here anymore. The 7-year-old was very upset, sadder than a temper tantrum, which is understandable, but the 5-year-old were very angry. About an hour later their mom came by and cussed me out, yelling at my doorstep about how I'm a horrible person who hates children because I'm bitter and can't find a husband. I'm standing my ground either way, but a few other parents came by and seemed a little frustrated by my explanation as to why that family is no longer welcome, which is making me question things. Am I the a-hole for banning them from playing here? Comment said not the a-hole. Let those destructive little kids play in the yards of the families who are frustrated. Your yard is now off limits. Put up cameras and when you catch property destructing in progress, call the cops and then sue the parents. Even 5-year-olds should know better than to do what those kids did. Poor kids, what inadequate parents they have. Another comment said not the a-hole, but you need to be very careful. As someone else suggested, you need cameras desperately. There is no telling what can and will go on at any time while kids are playing on your property. If someone gets hurt, you get sued. Have the kids work off the damage by doing yard work or have them clean and paint it themselves. With supervision. But cameras please. The next story is titled Tell Our Parents About Our Issues? I'll make you have an even bigger one. I, 15F, have an older sister, 17F, we'll call A. A has always been an awful person. Threatening, breaking things, sleeping around, skipping class, etc. She never really ever had serious consequences to her actions because she has autism, and since she's a minor, they can't kick her out yet. Yes, she has issues, but she can easily change her actions in front of her billionth boyfriend, so we all know she's doing all that for attention. Me and her got into an argument over the summer, and something private had slipped out of my mouth. She started blackmailing me by threatening to tell our parents ever since. I've been so scared of being admitted to the mental hospital, so I kept my mouth shut. Well, we got into another argument about a week ago. She decided it would be a great idea to bring it up to my parents. I was shocked. So were my parents. But lo behold, no consequences. Well, A is in the school band. With every club and activity we have at school, part of the requirements is that you have to have no obligations, or you'll be kicked out until that obligation is removed. A, as I said before, skips class a lot and doesn't stop. She's gotten 2 detentions already. Well, when you get 3 detentions, you get suspended. Suspension, no matter how long, is an obligation. I saw her skipping class and in the cafeteria. She was talking to someone who bullied me for almost my entire life. I had enough of her. I was so frustrated with everything she did. At school, I'm a goody 2-shoes, so I talked to the vice principal. I slowly walked while talking to her and slowly lured her closer to A. The vice principal saw her and immediately called her to her office. She's in the middle of her suspension and she can't participate in the band anymore. She's whining about it, but I really couldn't care less. The next story is titled Slow the Line and Act Like Jerks. Thanks for the free stuff. A little background info. I live in a beach town, and the summers here are ridiculous. Tons of traffic, and tourists everywhere. Some behave respectfully, others are horrible because it's not their backyard. Last summer I was at the grocery store, and it was insanely packed. Every register was open and had a line, and they also had self-checkout. I opted to go the latter route, since I only had a few items. There was a couple in front of me, and they were taking forever at the register because he was talking on his cell phone and was distracted. What I didn't realize, is that they had like 7 kids that were wandering the store and they were waiting on them to pay for it all. All 7 kids traipse past me with handfuls of stuff, and they start going down the checkout aisle and picking up the impulse buy items and dropping it on the conveyor belt for their parents to pay for. I'm annoyed at this point. I give a peeved look to the employee babysitting the self-checkout folks and she rolls her eyes. We're both like WTF. This process seriously took like 15 minutes. I finally get to the register to check out my belongings and I go to drop them into a bag, and I realize that there's a bunch of stuff in there. A big bottle of Excedrin migraine, a couple different kinds of sunscreen, some little beach toys, some candy. I look at the employee, and sort of feebly and say, "Oh look, they left a bunch of stuff behind." Typically I would chase someone down, but not after this horse crap. She just winks and says, "I saw nothing." So, I scanned my stuff, dropped it in the bag of stuff they paid for and left. As I was walking to my car, I saw all of them trying to get into 2 different vehicles, and everyone was fighting. And they had no idea that they didn't have sunscreen. And after the headache they gave me, the Excedrin came in handy. The next story is titled Got My First Black Card This Week. Had a check-in a few days ago, pretty standard. Was booked under a lower shiny tier account and notes saying to allow someone else to check in. No problem. Y'all know the drill, get a valid ID and credit card to pay for the room. A few hours after check-in the lady who checked in came back down and asked if it was possible to use the guy who booked the reservations card. I said sure, if we send him a credit card auth form. She was super chill and wasn't at all worried. She said she'd get it taken care of the next day. The next day the guy who booked the room showed up and said he needed keys to the room. His name was on the room, so I asked for his ID, and he also said he needs to pay for the room and he's not sure why we took her card since he booked through Centurion and should be paying for the room. I'm thinking he means he booked through Amex's travel portal or something. He hands me a Centurion card, then it clicks. He didn't book on the web portal, he booked with the Centurion concierge, and the fact he needed to be at the hotel for us to use his card seemed to have been lost in translation. I explained our payment policy and he said something more about how he's never had this problem with Centurion and will talk to them or something. He wasn't super mad or anything, just seemed confused and mildly annoyed. Keep in mind, I work at a select service hotel in the suburbs, not a downtown full-service property that would probably get black card holders frequently. I checked his profile, he didn't have any recent stay history, so he was only shiny because it's a guaranteed perk of the card. But, it was cool to see, hold, and charge a black card finally. The next story is titled Ada Room Problems. This one is a long one, so buckle up y'all. This couple who always checks in are typically known as a problem. The room is never perfect, or housekeeping never cleans well enough, or you don't come to the desk the moment they approach, all hell will break loose. Normally they get a room with a roll-in shower, but there was already an older lady in it. So they had to get a Ada room, but not a roll-in shower, it was a hearing handicap room. I hadn't seen them in a really long time, mainly because they normally come in the days I'm off. But I was unlucky this time. This time there was a maintenance problem in the room. We sent maintenance up to fix the issue, but it wasn't something that couldn't be fixed till after the holidays was over since we had to order the parts. We explained it to them but refused to move as they just wanted it fixed. After arguing with the AGM for a while, they basically walk off. Well, they come back during evening shift upset that their issue wasn't fixed. At this point it is now too late to change them rooms as all the Ada rooms had been booked. So the next day they end up changing and there isn't something in the room that they need. Now this is where they finally get to me. I had came back from the bathroom and she was at the desk. I asked her how could I help her, wearing my work uniform with the hotel brand on my shirt, and she asked if I work here. At this point I'm like, do I work here? I help her out, and then she starts yelling at me over something that happened during first shift. I'm like, sorry, there's nothing I can do to help you. There really wasn't anything I could do. She starts saying how she is a paying customer and we guarantee satisfaction. She then starts listing her problems with the stay, starting with the maintenance issue. I explained to her that she was told what the issue was and refused to move. She starts yelling even more, saying she is in an Ada room and what I'm doing is illegal and she is recording me. At this point I'm like, does she think I'm that stupid, because she wasn't recording me at all. She then goes, well, I know, insert GM name here, and I'm going to get you fired, I'm going to take it to the top. I say go ahead, that I don't care. She then gets really mad that my name plaque isn't on the wall. My AGM name was still up there from this morning. And then she wants me to write something down for housekeeping. Which then she gets mad because nothing is filled out on the paper. I explained to her this paper doesn't get filled out till after audit ran. She then gets more mad because I won't write down on the papers that me and the AGM wouldn't help. At this point I explain again, this is not what the paper for. At this point she tries to take the paper out of my hand and then tried to come around my desk. At that point I take the paper and walk away back into the office. As I'm walking away she is yelling, I've got your GM number, I'm going to call her. So I call my AGM to see if it's even okay to kick her out if she continues to scream at the front desk. I didn't want this to be a lawsuit. While I'm on the phone with her, the hotel phone is ringing. The lady thought that the phone number on my boss business card was her personal phone number. After that she continued to scream at the desk for another 10 minutes and then leaves. And my GM got to inform her that she is no longer allowed to stay at our property. Glad I will never have to see her again. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.